Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council. Mayor Teresa Tomlinson. City Manager Isaiah Hughley. Pop Barnes, District 1. Glenn Davis, District 2. Bruce Huff, District 3. Evelyn Turner Pugh, Mayor Pro Tem and District 4. Mike Baker, District 5. Gary Allen, District 6. Mimi Woodson, District 7. Tom Buck, District 8. Judy Thomas, Post 9 at-large counselor. Skip Henderson, Post 10 at-large counselor. Tiny Washington, Clerk of Council. And City Attorney Clifton Fay. Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the January 12th meeting of the Columbus City Council. This is our first business meeting of the year, and it's very good to have you here with us. We have some special guests today. We have awards and accolades, and then we have a whole lot of business to get down to. So we appreciate you joining us to learn more about your community and see good government in action. We're going to go ahead and start off, as we always do, with an invocation. This morning, we're going to have Chaplain Roy Asasi from the Columbus Police Department come and provide the invocation consistent with his faith tradition. And Chaplain, it's so good to see you this morning.
Let us pray. Lord, I just thank you for the opportunity to pray, Lord, and that we have this freedom here. Bless the city of Columbus, Lord, every square mile. Bless the leaders that make the decisions that influence this city. And, Lord, I just thank you that this city is in the palm of your hands and that no weapon formed against any citizen shall prosper. And I thank you, like you said in the 23rd Psalm, surely goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our lives. We just thank you for a great meeting and just for a great year and a prosperous year for the city of Columbus. And we thank you for your grace in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chaplain, and thank you for all you do, the Columbus Police Department. Next, we have a real treat. We've got the Rigdon Road Elementary School students, and as they come forward to assemble, I want to let you know that these aren't just any pledge volunteers. These are veterans. They've told me they've been here a couple of times. They know exactly what to do. So y'all come on up, and they got it down pat. As they assemble, I'm going to ask the rest of you all to stand and join them in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wow, they are veterans. That was really, really great. Okay, well, your practice paid off. And now we want to hear from you. If you will, just tell us your name and what grade you're in.
Sanaya Scott, I'm in 5th grade. Abdullah Ellis, I'm in the 4th grade. Amani Warrior, I'm in the 4th grade. Jada Davis, I'm in the 4th grade. Desani Sutton, I'm in the 4th grade. Ashley Reed, I'm in the 4th grade. Sierra Tyler, I'm in the 5th grade. Adriana Spencer, I'm in the 4th grade. My name is Lanaya Meek. I'm in the 4th grade.
My name is Joel Gordillo, and I'm in the 5th grade.
My name is Kaylani Coyne. I'm in the 4th grade.
Andrea Woods in 4th grade.
Antanasia White, 4th grade.
Hayden Snell, 5th grade.
Imani Vincent, 5th grade. My name is Kenny Pye. I'm in the 4th grade.
Javon Pascal, 5th grade.
Brandon Bowden, 5th grade.
Asiana Crenshaw, 4th grade.
Chantel Daniel, 5th grade.
Reagan Bussey, 5th grade.
Kayla Truitt, 5th grade.
All right, and you got a few folks with you. You please do introduce yourselves. I can hardly see you back behind the kids, but there we go. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Cynthia Buford, 5th grade. My name is Maria Webb, 4th grade. And this group of students here, these are our newly inducted National Elementary Honor Society students.
Wow.
So they were
That's
inducted last Thursday.
Well, thank you all for coming. I know you've got a couple of supporters out there in the crowd, too. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. You all did an excellent job, and hopefully you'll come back and help us out again soon. All right. Good luck in school. Keep doing great. And as they head out and back to the classroom, of course, we need to commend our neighbors over at the University of Alabama on their big win last night, and our city manager, one of their #1 fans. So, yeah, right. When I went to bed last night at 11:50, it was 37-27. So I told the city manager I'm not much of a football fan, but he pulled for my alma mater when we needed it. So by God, I was going to stand up and pull for the Big Gray. He told me that wasn't exactly the way to say it, but we worked it out. Anyway, congratulations. All right. It was a great game. It really was. Okay, next we have, as I said, we've got some special guests here this morning. And we're going to call forward Adrian Wood, with the who's the Planning Outreach Coordinator with the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, and she's here to present a very special certificate, the Plan First certificate presentation. And hopefully, Ms. Wood, you'll tell us a little bit about it, because this is very exciting. And we want to recognize Planning Director Rick Jones and also Will Johnson with the Planning Department for their involvement. So tell us what this is all about.
Absolutely. The Plan First program was started a couple of years ago to recognize those communities that not only prepare a good comprehensive plan, but actually use it. And oddly enough, that is not necessarily very common. We have 17 communities in the state that are now designated as Plan First communities. You're in this last batch of 7. Out of 688 local governments, you're in a pretty exclusive group. Columbus's plan, if I am correct, won a Georgia Planning Association award a couple of years ago. So, I mean, you're just getting accolades for your planning all over the state. You're recognized as doing a good job, and so we wanted to award you this designation. It comes with several incentives to continue to plan well, including reduction points on loans, certain loans from DCA and from GFA. So that's always a very popular incentive when we can pull GFA into the mix. It's a 3-year designation, and you will start officially January 1st. You will end December 31st, 2018. And on January the 28th, we invite you to come to the Capitol for the official plaque giving ceremony at the Capitol and a photograph with the governor. That will take place at 9 o'clock in the Legislative Office Building, and then the picture with the governor is at 10. So you can tell our ceremony is very quick. But we do want to recognize and give you a plaque. And today I have for you a suitable for framing certificate, Rick. There.
Rick, why don't you say a few words? Tell us about this. And Ms. Wood said we'll be doing this for a year. We'll be
3 years.
3 years. 3 years. So doing what exactly for 3 years so the citizens understand?
Well, this of course, is a great honor for us as planners, but also for our city as well. Because what it does, it establishes us as one of the planning mechanisms in this state and really in this region and perhaps the Southeast itself, in terms of letting our citizens know that we really are looking out for their future, that we are trying to make sure that we utilize the taxes we receive, that we put them to good use, that we promote the quality of life in this community, that we assure ourselves that there is a brighter future and that things are going to work towards better for all of us in doing this. It's a lot of hard work. As you can see, the folks behind me are really the ones that do that for us on a day-to-day basis in terms of making sure that things are working together and trying to, again, make this place a better place for us all. involved with that. So, in short, it's a great honor. It just complements and supports the fact of what we've been trying to do here for the last several years in really planning out the needs of this community. So, thank you for this honor, and we do appreciate it.
I think it never occurred to the city of Columbus, or certainly to the citizens, that a lot of these planning documents aren't implemented in other communities. We don't realize that, so we put it on paper and then we get busy trying to do something about it.
And that is remarkable, and I would like you to know that I use you as an example because we have a lot of doorstops.
Yeah.
And, other things because they just don't see the importance of planning. They do work for their future. They just don't think of it as planning.
Yes, yes. Well, since you're here and you've traveled all the way from Atlanta, please come around and give us the opportunity to say hello. And we'd like to get you back again so we can give you a tour of all the great things we're doing. Well, for all our guests here today, we're going to try to turn the heat down just a tad, so don't pass out on us. I think they saw it was going to be 28 degrees this morning and decided to crank it up just in case. But if I'm warm, I know there's a problem. So they're going to see if they can adjust that thermostat. All right. Next, we have our internal auditor, John Redmond. He's actually coming forward for 2 requests for transition audits. One is on the agenda, and the other one's an amendment, an addition at the request of Senior Superior Court Judge Gil McBride. And so I'll let John tell us a little bit about that.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, members of council, executive team. It's good to see you this new year. We have first a request from Deputy City Manager Hodge for a transition audit of the Codes and Inspection Department. This department has had several different leaders over the past few years, and she thinks it'd be an appropriate time to have another review. It's been about 5 years since we looked at that when Mr. Duck left. So we'd like to have your approval for that. And just yesterday...
Hold on, John, we got a motion and an approval, so let's see if there's any discussion on this item. Maybe we can get you going on at least one. Anything? All right, all those in favor, please state aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, and what else you have?
We also have received a request just yesterday from Superior Court Senior Judge, Chief Judge Gil McBride. He has an office called the Office of Alternative Dispute Resolution. It's attached to the court system, and it's really been instrumental in helping them resolve a lot of the cases load that's been backlogged. And in fact, it's one of the things that the state judiciary has encouraged to do, to find alternative ways of resolving disputes before you take it to the courtroom, if at all possible. That office has been headed by a gentleman by the name of Larry Love for a number of years, I guess since its inception perhaps. And Mr. Love retired at the end of the year, and there's going to be a new leader, and I believe it's Mr. Berry, Ed Berry. And he would like to have a transition audit performed of that function as well.
All right, we've got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion on this request? Hearing none, all those in favor, please state aye. Are there any opposed? All right, John, thank you.
Well, thank you. I'd just like to say one thing. We talked about it the last time I came up for an audit, but it's interesting now that we have more requests from potential auditees, if you will, that are asking for the service rather than feeling like they're being serviced. So
yes,
it's important to me to have that level of support and confidence from our department leaders and our city executives and council.
You're absolutely right. It is a transformation in culture, and that's very, very important. People look forward, if you will, to the audit to make sure they get things right and have a good base on which they can then perform and lead.
I think they recognize it's an opportunity to identify some areas where maybe they can improve, and then that's what they put forth the effort to do. So that's
well, that was the objective, so good job. Good job. All right. We have some minutes, some housekeeping here. We've got minutes from October 13 and 27, November 10th and 17th. and December 8th and 15th. We've got a motion from the Mayor Pro Tem and a second from Councilor Allen. Did anybody have any amendments or edits, additions to these minutes? Hearing that there's none, all those in favor, please state aye. Okay, and we will now move into the City Attorney's agenda. Mr. Fay.
Thank you, Mayor. Just have a few business items this morning. First one up is a zoning public hearing for property at 7350 Blackman Road, going from residential estate to general commercial. Mr. Ben Billings, the petitioner, is here. It's recommended for approval. Let's see if anybody else wants to comment. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to be heard? All right, any questions from council?
Not at this time.
All right. Mr. Billings will vote on this in 2 weeks at the 5:30 council meeting. All right. Thank you. Next item, Mayor, is an ordinance amending the FY16 budget to cover legal fees in the litigation involving Sheriff Darr. This is only a first reading, but $72,000 worth of fees have been ordered for the past month by Judge Fuller. Any questions on that?
So we got the Mayor Pro Tem.
I don't have a question per se, but I think you may want to state that these are fees that we have to pay, and we can't question the fees right now.
These are, I'm sorry.
She said these are fees we have to pay, and we can't question them
That's
right now.
That's correct. These are ordered by Judge Fuller to pay the legal expenses of Sheriff Darr and the litigation. Of course, these fees are at issue. We have objected to the payment of the fees from funds other than the sheriff's budget. That issue has been preserved for appeal, but they are ordered by the court and must be paid at this time. All right?
Okay. All right. Well, given that standing objection, let's see. We have Councilor Thomas.
I also have a question. Mr. Fay, this is the second or third one of these ordinances that has come before us. Can we expect one of these every month until this case is settled?
I would think so. I would imagine that we're going to get one at least every month or every other month.
From Darr, the others aren't incurring fees, really.
Right. We haven't had any.
Say that again.
The others are not really pursuing their cases. I mean, one stayed because it's up on appeal, and the other one's not really pursuing it very much.
So
they're not incurring
no legal
fees.
funds, no legal fees being.
They're not sending us bills because they're not doing much.
Okay.
At this time, they may decide they want to move forward at some time, but at this time, not. And yes, that's. I mean, when they kicked the ball off, this is the process. So yes, it'll probably be every month.
All right, we'll bring that back in 2 weeks. Our resolution today would establish qualifying fees for county offices for the 2016 elections. That is ready for action.
Okay, we've got a motion and second to approve the resolution for qualifying fees. Let's see, I see no discussion. Let me see. Okay. And it is queued for your vote. If you would, record your votes electronically. Yeah, there we go. And it does pass.
That passes. Thank you. And Mayor, we need one executive session. Should be fairly brief on litigation.
Okay.
And that's all we have.
Thank you. We have no public agenda today, so we'll move right into the city manager's agenda with Mr. Hughley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and it's rare that you get to my agenda at 9:20 a.m.
On the same day.
On the same day. I've got a few things. First, I've got expansion of the current construction and demolition landfill at Pine Grove. We're asking your approval of a resolution identifying the site for expansion of our current C&D landfill.
We have a motion and second for approval. Seeing that there's no discussion, It's been queued to vote. Please record your votes electronically. And it passes.
Next, I've got...
Oh, wait, hold on a second. We have the Mayor Pro Tem. Just a second here. Okay, there we go.
I just want to reiterate, this is expansion of the current landfill. It's not any additional land that we're going out and buy, so nobody will be thinking that we're expanding the landfill outside the perimeter that we already set.
No, that you're absolutely correct, Mayor Pro Tem, and actually we've got, and I put a map in there, we've got the C&D landfill on one side, and then we've got the Pine Grove on another, and it's the 7.6 acres between those two landfills, which have already been authorized by EPD, but we've got to send a resolution getting the permit to proceed forward with using them.
And we already own that.
We already own it. We've got 2.83 years remaining in the current C&D landfill, and it's important that we move forward at this time with that 7.6 acres because we would, after 2.83 years, we would have to transport C&D out of the county, which would cost us and it would cost citizens because it's an increased cost to the city, and it would cost those contractors doing business in Columbus, Georgia, because they've got to haul it further. So that's why we're bringing this forward to you at this time. But the acreage is there. It's already there and ready to go. We just got to go through the permit process.
All right, we have Councilor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I know this is dealing with construction demolition debris, but it got me thinking about our recycling efforts. I think it'd be good to have, maybe in the next several months, have another update from Ms. Biegler, just highlighting, number one, what it costs to close a cell, what it costs to maintain and monitor those cells, and the expected positive impact on increasing our recycling usage and what kind of life expectancy it adds exponentially to our existing landfills. Because I think we talk about this during budget session, but we never really have time to drill down. And it's pretty remarkable what increasing our recycling can do to postponing what is the major cost in operating our waste management program. So.
Sure. And I've got the Public Works Director scheduled to present on the fourth Tuesday this month related to garbage trucks. And part of what she is going to be talking about is how recycling has increased in this community and how it has diverted from the use of the landfill and as a result has increased the life of the landfill. So we'll go ahead and tie all of that in with that presentation that's coming on the fourth Tuesday.
Well, and I know that we're out of the large containers, and we haven't really appropriated any funding yet to go buy any additional ones. And it may be helpful to point out that it is an investment.
And we've got, I don't know if you've been in my meetings, but
I've bugged your office.
Yeah, but I'm getting concerned because we've talked about that, and that's part of what she's going to talk about as well.
Right, well, I would just wait then.
Yeah. So, but we'll do that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, we have Councilor Woodson.
Yes, to add to that, City Manager, can she bring up an update on, I know at one time we were looking at compressing things to save more time and more land in the landfill. I don't remember what the whole discussion was, but when you mentioned this, it came to light that we need to revisit that because I know we took a trip, and I think it was to Florida, Jacksonville. We took a trip somewhere, and we saw the effectiveness of composting the trash and so forth. So I kind of, in the same realm, kind of like to get a little update on that. Where are we? Did we do anything? Where do we look for in the future in the sense of going into that realm also?
Composting?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. Let's see, and we have Councilor Davis.
City Manager, and looking at future updates, I've received recently in the last month or so some questions about the landfill off of River Road. It's an inert landfill, so could we touch on that subject as well, dealing with inert waste, and also in the presentation, you may want to ask the director if they can also look at the other side of the equation here, because I know that the recycling industry is changing as well. There's a lot of impacts in that area that ultimately could affect cities and states, and from a budgetary standpoint. So if we can look at the other side of that equation as well, I don't know where that sector of the economy is going in the future, but certainly with oil prices going down every day, and we just found out that they're no longer recycling glass. We also need to know the other side of the equation, or the risk or the liabilities associated in case one day we've got to make a change. So where does that play into this update? I'd like to hear that part of it as well. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Thank you. All right, Mr. City Manager.
Next, I've got on my agenda the Georgia Classic Main Street Program Memorandum of Understanding. Back in 2006, Council approved a resolution supporting Uptown Columbus's efforts to become an urban Main Street city by the National Trust Main Street Center, and this resolution is a renewal of the certification.
We got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, you may record your votes electronically. All right, and it does pass.
I've got some purchases. No, I'm sorry. I've got the disposition of property located.
We've got a motion and a second now for disposition of property located at Ironstone Drive. It's .096 acres located at 5646 Rockhurst Road, and it's adjacent to our property at 5745 Ironstone Road for $3,302. We have Councilor Thomas.
Mr. City Manager, this says, is the 5646 Rockhurst Drive, as I'm looking at the map of this, is that the land that is behind this property?
Yes.
So do we own all of that land that I see on this map?
I'm sorry.
If you look at the map, it looks like most of this has trees and that sort of thing. So we own all of that? Is that the?
It's a watershed. It's watershed number 25, I believe, and
okay.
It backs up to this property of this property owner, and they were going to do construct a structure over their in-ground pool, and when they went out to try to do the work, they realized that a small portion of what's already there is on the property of the watershed owned by the city. And so because the property is of no value to us, it's a watershed, and we checked with the appropriate state authorities, and they didn't have a problem with it. We went through the process of getting the property surveyed and doing what we needed to do, and the cost of doing that came to $3,302. And so it's not revenue that we received, it's the cost of getting all
reimbursement, if you will.
Yes. And so because it's of no value to us, and it was a small portion that their in-ground pool is constructed on, we want to be a good neighbor, and so we said we'd go ahead and deed that to you for the cost of getting it all done through the process.
And I am assuming that we probably will not face this same issue with any of the adjoining properties. It doesn't look in the map, the picture that we see, the aerial picture, that there's any other buildings or anything, encroaching on that on the other properties. So
none that we are aware of at this time.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So that is a motion and a second. We've concluded discussion. If you would, please record your votes electronically. Oh, yes. Okay, all right. And that does pass. We have Counselor Buck. Yeah.
Isaiah, what is the situation? I know next Monday is a holiday.
Yes, sir.
They will not be picking up garbage next Monday.
That's correct.
If you are a Monday person, when do you pick it up on this holiday?
On Wednesday.
On Wednesday instead of Monday?
Yes, sir. The Monday pickups will fall on Wednesday because typically we don't pick up on Wednesday.
Okay. Thank you very much. I just had
so all
a lot of
other
people call me
pickups
about that.
will remain on the same on the current schedule.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, did you have something?
There's a commercial on TV about the pickup.
Yes.
Yes. Which is really easy when we just have the one day. It's when we have two vacation or
Right.
2 days off, holidays in 1 week. But one day it's on the pickups on Wednesday.
And really, I really want to thank the local media for their support and efforts to help us communicate that to the citizens, because they've given us some really prime time for those commercials to get the message out. So thank you to all of them.
Thank you.
Next, I've got trucks, 2 Ford 150 pickup trucks for the Columbus Police Department. They're $29,000 each, a total of $58,000.
Got a motion to approve and a second. Is there any discussion on item A of purchases? Please record your votes electronically. We need one more. There we go. And it does pass.
Got a HVAC for Carver Park Recreation Center gym. It's $13,500. It's a replacement unit.
Got a motion and second for approval on an HVAC pack for Carver Park Recreation Center. Let's see here. Angie, record your votes electronically.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
There's 2 units. I may have said 1, but there are 2 units
Okay.
there. Yeah.
And that was in the materials provided to Counselor?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, and it does pass. All right.
I've got a vendor name change for our debt collection service, and it's a name change only. The name is changing from the awarded vendor Credit Financial Services to Professional Recovery Consultants, and there are no other changes, and we're asking your approval. And that's on the debt collection vendor for the city.
Okay, we got a motion and second to approve. Please record your votes electronically. Okay, we've got a motion and second to approve item number, is that D&E, Councilor Davis? D&E, which is the flooring for the Civic Center and air walls for the Civic Center. I believe we had a second by Councilor Woodson. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Any discussion on these 2 items? Seeing that there's none, hold on a second. There we go. Thank you. We need to record your votes electronically. And it does pass.
I've got renovation of the Office of Public Defender. It's authorizing us to enter an agreement, a construction contract with Grady Construction, $67,599 to renovate the Office of the Public Defender as a result of the Rapid Resolution Initiative. They are, and you've had a number of presentations here related to that, and they've done good work. They need, they've got 3 additional public defenders. They need new office space, so they are reconfiguring the existing office space to accommodate those new public defenders. We're asking your approval.
We have Counselor Thomas with discussion.
Mr. City Manager, I see that the funds for this are budgeted from general fund, general construction. Is that infrastructure monies? I mean, I just need a little explanation of what this account is,
The
if you
Deputy
will.
City Manager to
Thank you.
respond to that.
This was included in the FY16 budget to come out of the general fund, out of the Public Defender's Office. It was one of the expenditures related with the Rapid Resolution Initiative. So it was a budgeted item in the general fund.
Okay. Thank you.
Did you have first of all, I don't think we have a motion on this yet. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All right. Let's see. And it is queued for vote. And it does pass.
No. Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Are we
It
good?
did pass. It passed.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Next, I've got change order number 3 for fire station number 9 related to the burn building. Now, you may recall at our last council meeting in 2015, we had Chief Jeff Myers here and John Hutchison related to who handles our construction. And they spoke to you and they answered questions for you related to this matter. And so now we're bringing it to you for formal approval. And so we're asking for your approval or asking you to authorize the execution of change order 3. It's in the amount of $620,727 for fire station 9. This change order is for site preparation for the burn tower facility as was presented to you at the last meeting. And you know that burn tower facility is adjacent to the newly being constructed fire station number 9. And there's a lot of additional work that's required. They had some soil problems, and they talked about that at the last meeting. And so now we're asking for your approval so that we can proceed forward with this project, the burn building and fire station number 9.
Okay. Councilor Davis.
I think everybody knows I've expressed my concerns, and I'm going to support this time. And Madam Mayor, the City Manager, not a lot was said at that last meeting, but I hope you as well have concerns. It was fortunate, and I think my understanding, well, it looks like the funds to support this request have changed since the presentation.
Well,
I thought I heard the fire chief say that he had enough room in his budget that he could cover the cost, the additional cost, but now I'm seeing it coming from other funds. Am I right on that?
Well, it hasn't changed from the last meeting, but from the original presentation, there's been obviously 2 change orders, so it has changed, and I'll let you respond to that.
2 additional change orders?
This is the 3rd change order.
The funds are coming from OLOST, which we explained at the last meeting that these were funds that were originally budgeted for the lease program for the fire trucks and the ambulances. First payment's not due until FY17, so that $510,000 is available. We accumulate project costs in Fund 508, so there will be a transfer from the other loss fund into Fund 508 to accumulate the cost for the burn building. It's a capital project fund, so the funding is coming from the other loss that we discussed at the last meeting.
And I appreciate that. I don't think it was quite explained that way in detail. I think the fire chief just said it was coming out of his budget. Now, there's another concern there because the way it was, the request of the vehicles was an emergency need as well, if I'm not mistaken. So now I guess we're delaying that in order to cover the cost. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, we've already we've received some of the ambulances. The fire trucks are not here yet, but we should be receiving those shortly. But we did those through the GMA lease program, and the first payment is not due until FY17.
Okay.
So that is what made those funds available to cover the cost of this project.
Okay, well, I just want, in thinking about this in retrospect, and I'm just going to look at this more from a macro perspective instead of just singling out one department in this case, because I do think it was stated, the fire chief said it well, that they've been very responsible and fiscal responsible with their budgets over the years. So that's noted. But in light of this, I will say that we've done a lot of projects. We've done these specific projects several times. So when you do things over and over, you tend to know what you got to deal with at those points in time. So I'm concerned about a weak link here. And I'd like to recommend, Mr. City Manager, that the administration look into maybe some backup resources to help in maybe consulting on these, whether they're contracts, whether the pre-planning that's going into it. But a lot of this stuff, the way I read it in these contracts or what's being presented, can be done up front. And my concern is that it wasn't presented that way. Everybody knows you got to start from the ground up on any kind of project. So, we need at this time, I think the council needs to understand these requests and the numbers as close as you can get them, because there's no room right now with the budgetary constraints to deal with some of these things. And quite frankly, if there's going to be more requests, from this standpoint, I'm just not going to approve them. We can't. So the only way to deal with that would be to try to start working on the front end of these things and get them nailed down to the exact cost. We shouldn't have to deal with these change orders when we've done this over and over, and it seems like they're the same change order. So that's my concern, and I just wanted to note that. So backup resources would help from that standpoint. I know that we've got people, good people that have helped over the years that are now retiring and they're moving on, and we've got a ton of projects in the pipeline. So this may be the right time to start looking at that from that angle, because the way I see it, being in that business, in the development business, is that the right resource and the right people can help you save a lot of money, and they'll pay for themselves.
Well, and I don't disagree with that at all, Councilor Davis. And let me just say that our construction management people in-house go through the same process as a private construction management firm or team would go through. I have no problem at all. Well, I do have a problem with contracting out the management of projects because of the cost that it takes away from the project itself. Typically, construction management costs you about 10% of the project. And so on a $30 million project, they could get $3 million. And we have an in-house construction manager. That's more than the whole department's budget in the city. And so we've got good people at a good price doing a great work for $50,000 in-house. And so, but if the council would like to have a project manager, and there are those around who would love to take a project and earn 10% of that project to be the project manager, construction manager, but there again, it certainly takes away from the monies that we could put into the project itself.
Well, Mr. City Manager, and I understand, I don't think you understood what I said. I used the term a backup resource, and that would be basically utilizing someone. I'm not talking about for every project. And by the way, I don't agree with that analogy. I mean, even though that's what it could cost, it doesn't have to cost that amount if it's done right. So that would take a work on the administration to set it up and to figure out the terms. That's all relevant to the terms. And what I stated is a resource that could be on on call, so to speak, for lack of a better term, that wouldn't cost that much, or that could help in some of these areas. So I don't agree with that part of the cost side. And quite frankly, I'm just, like I said last time, I'm disappointed that a lot of this stuff was missed up front. So we don't, like I said, we don't have room for mistakes.
Well, I absolutely agree with you, and we're going to work always to make sure that there are no mistakes. But, I talked to, I don't know that we can promise you we're going to be perfect. And even when I talk to those constructing private projects, of course they have change orders and they have overruns. And I know that you know that.
Well, and you may want to talk with our friends next door over with the school district, because I think they've kind of been working with this too, and have solved come up with some solutions to solve some of their needs in the future. So, and that may be something we want to look at from the same angle. So I'll just throw that out as a reference.
We'll be happy to talk to them.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right. Let's see here. We have Mayor Pro Tem.
One of the things we have to also remember, when these projects are first bidded out, it may be 5 years or 10 years before we actually start construction. And even 2 years, costs have gone up. So we have to take all that into consideration, too, when we see change orders. And I don't think anybody's out there just arbitrarily changing stuff just to change things.
And we certainly have had examples of coming in under budget on projects. So, let's see. We've got Councilor Thomas.
I too am going to vote in favor of this change order, but I too have some concerns. We now have over $850,000 in change orders on this project. And I'm not in the business. I'm not an architect, but in looking at the list of things that are in this change order, it just seems to my untrained mind and eye that there are things in here that should have been taken into consideration when the project went forth. For example, the concrete and elevated slab work. Surely you knew that you were going to have to do a slab. Surely you knew that you were going to have to do staking and layout. Surely you knew some of these kinds of things. And I do not believe in any stretch of the imagination that anybody is doing this for any reason except that it needs to be done, that we need to have these kinds of things. But we are at $850,000 higher than the original cost. And I think we need to be very careful, not only of this project, but in the future when we put projects together, that we make sure that we do a realistic and thorough and complete plan and program to bring to us. I remember the presentations that were made about the need for this burn tower. It absolutely is needed. We can't use the old one. It is not safe for our employees to be in that building. I understand all of that. And as I said, I'm going to vote for this. But I do hope that our conversation at least will, the next time something like this comes up, we'll look at it a second, maybe third, even fourth time to make sure that we're doing what we need to do in the beginning and not have to do these kinds of change orders. Thank you. And I understand change orders are the nature of the business. That's not my concern. My concern is $854,000, and it seems that some of these could have been anticipated in the original planning.
Mr. City Manager, I'd like to hear maybe from John what the process was. Was the soil considered? I know he wasn't perhaps on this particular project. It was started, I think, under former Deputy City Manager Arrington, but I'd like to hear what the process was. Was the soil considered? How was it missed? What about the concrete slab? Why is it any different, and why did it warrant a change order? Good morning.
Morning. Primarily, what happens is, what always gets us is fire stations, due to the ISO ratings, they have to be in certain areas of town. So in those certain area towns, because specifically I worked on Fire Station 2 previous, and we kind of get shoehorned in the locations we have to put them due to response times to keep our ISO ratings. So when we were there previous at Fire Station 2, that used to be the old, off of Rose Hill, that used to be the old Rose Hill pool. So when we start digging down in the ground, we're finding the original pool is still in place. They just threw dirt on top of it. So we had bad soils there. The same situation here. This, for the reaction time, response time for fire EMS, that was the closest site we had to not use the existing site on J Street. We get over there, it's already next to Bull Creek. Some of it is considered wetlands, but due to the fire station's ability or where it needs to be, we were kind of already behind the 8 ball to start. Even with the, we had the geotechnical reports, all this stuff told us that we had a high water table, but we just didn't, there's nowhere else for us to go. If that's where that fire station is, unless the city were to purchase other property or tear other buildings we have down to put it in that same location. So that's why the fire stations always tend to mount higher costs than other buildings, because other places, if we did a rec center, if we found out the soil was bad, we would just not do the rec center. Or we move to another part of town and work it out. But the fire stations is just kind of the nature of that project. The higher slab came from the water table issues. Also, another big change order you see on there is the heavy-duty asphalt. That was another high-ticket item, and that was only because we know if we do, we kind of get caught in the trap where we're trying to be responsible for the city's money. Therefore, there's certain items that we could be elaborate on, and we don't. So the grade of the road, we took down to save money. But if we've got a heavy-duty fire truck in there, and that truck, those trucks are running through there, plus the burn tower is going to be going back there, that's running through there, that road is going to be in shambles in 5 years. Then we're going to have to come back in, resurface that road, and the cost we could have put in the front end, we end up paying for it on the back end. So that's kind of where the concrete came from, because we know the concrete will last longer. The architect was being responsible for our funds, and they suggested for it to all be asphalt. But then once we talked to the fire department again, we decided for longevity of replacement costs to go ahead and do it in concrete. So that's kind of where that higher slab and that comes from. So like I said, a lot of times we do these, we do bidded projects, and they come in, and they do come in. The design bid build process kind of always kind of gets us into the low bidder. And so at that process, the way it's set up, that's the process, that's the contract we have to take. And a lot of times now, especially when we did the Citizen Service Center, we do a design build project. So we know all these moving parts are coming in, and then we have a set price that we negotiate to. But a lot of times in that issues, we get tied up in timelines. If there's things that we've been requested to go ahead and get in operation, or previous buildings are falling apart, if we've got to get it in, a lot of times the design build is the quickest way to get a contractor on site. So
let me ask you, John, you explained, at least that I understand, you've explained the concrete substitute.
Yes.
Because even it was designed and the price was set based on asphalt, because the original proposal was to be good stewards of our money and get in a cheaper product. And then after thinking about it, there was a proposal that perhaps that would cost us more in the long run. So, and then you came to council to see what they thought about it, and they approved it. So I understand that. We decided as a community that would be a better investment. Now tell me again about this water table business. Did we know when we were setting the price originally, the water table was high? Why did we not take into consideration the bad soil? When was it that we discovered the bad soil, and why wasn't that in the original price?
When we initially graded the site, the engineering design was to create a detention pond on the site. Therefore, that's where the water would flow to and collect and improve the soils, because obviously if the soils are inundated with water, we don't know their strength. So when we got out there, we determined that soil, some of it was good, and we had to recondition it, which at that time we hadn't built the building. So we were able to actually dig out the soils, recondition them, we pulled them out, we tilled them, we aerated them, so they were able to be properly compacted. So actually that number that's on there would probably double or triple, because we would have had to haul in dirt from other sources. We were actually able to use the dirt that was on site, and I believe it was around $68,000 is what was actually conferred in labor costs, with actually having a contractor coming out there tilling the soils every day. So once we did the original report, we knew that there was a high water table, and the intent was to use different type of footings for the building. So that was already included in the project. But it was just once we started getting into compacting the soil for the driveways where we knew the trucks and things, traffic was going to be on, we had to repair those. Now the areas, the landscaping, we used the existing soils that were out there because there's no pressure or any extra weight that's going to be in those areas. So
there is a process.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Let's say Councilor Henderson. Or, excuse me, I'm sorry, Councilor Baker.
Well, and you answered the question that I was going to ask. And I'm not sure of our appraisal process, but at some point are those factors taken in at the original appraisal when we purchased that property? I believe that's a little piece left over from the Park Hill Cemetery, if I'm not mistaken, that family that owns all that property out through there, I believe.
I don't think that's who we bought it
No, it wasn't?
from, no. I don't recall who it was, but I don't think it was them.
Oh, okay.
No.
But the concern is soil mitigation cost considered in the upfront purchase price. I mean, is there room for negotiation, or are we just getting an appraisal, based on somebody's appraisal and buying off that and then running into the cost after the fact?
Well, and I don't, I'm sorry. I don't know that he can answer that because he wasn't involved.
He was not, and I understand that. And I'm not putting him on the spot. This is most of the questions we're asking are procedural.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
well, does somebody know, whether it's Donna or Mr. City Manager, whether or not the remediation related to the high water table was taken into consideration when negotiating the purchase price? I was not involved in this purchase price, but I've certainly been in the room where people have made proposals about how much they thought their property was worth, and we've had an appraisal, and then we've knocked it down from there, given some things we thought were disadvantageous about the property. So surely there was some sort of assessment and negotiation related to this.
Well, and I don't, because the former deputy city manager was so heavily involved in it, I do recall we were not going to be able to use all of the acreage. I think it was 50 acres, but there was enough there that we could use, and we identified that portion. So I know that when we moved forward to purchase that property, we purchased it with full knowledge that there were certain portions of that property that would not be usable for what we were trying to do.
And did you take that into consideration when negotiating the price?
My recollection is from the former deputy city manager, that was discussion, yes. And the fire chief may know more, but I'm just going on my recollection because he was dealing with the fire chief at that time.
Okay. All right. We have Councilor Thomas.
Please don't take my questions as anything other than the fact that you have brought us a $600,000 change order. And anytime you come to us with a $600,000 change order, that brings the price of the change orders up to $850,000 above what was originally budgeted. I believe it's my responsibility to make sure that I say to you, let's be cautious about this in the future. I am not saying I don't think any of this is necessary. I don't know if it's necessary. That's why we've hired you, is because you do know whether or not it's necessary. And when you tell us it's necessary, I believe it's necessary. But my only concern is the amount of money that we are talking about. I don't believe we ought to pass that through this council without some conversation and at least some acknowledgement of the fact that once we got in there were some things that needed to be done that we didn't know to begin with. Please don't take it any other way than that. I believe that everybody and their brother knows that if it were my decision and money were no object, I would tell the Columbus Fire and EMS, do whatever you need, whatever you want, whatever it is. That's not the case. money is an object, and we need to be careful as we are spending that money to make sure that we are doing it in the best interest. And I believe that we are. I just want to make sure that it's not just, passed by without any acknowledgement of the amount of money that we're talking about.
And Councilor Thompson, I want you to know we absolutely